curiosity. What are you so curious about? Everything, Mr. Curiosity.
It's happening.
Hi, Joe.
I love it. Bob Cordaro. There he is. Now, I want to let you know.
Joe, I read your weather report every day.
Yeah.
I think of you all the time. I think
you
of you
think
all
about
the
me
time.
all the time.
Yeah.
That sounds a little creepy.
Yeah, doesn't it?
Now, before I begin, I just want to let you know that if you hear something in the background, it's my dog.
Okay.
He's chewing on something. He's probably going to hump the pillow later. He just doesn't. Okay? It's not me. It's him.
I can't be. Dogs do not bother me. Cats.
Right.
I have my cats running around here.
Excellent. I'm wondering on the just to the upper left of your shoulder. I can't get my eyes off that. What is that? It's like a pattern. There's a football there.
It's a drawing that my son did when he was in grade school.
Oh, I love it. And you somehow I love it. Good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, in my intro, I already said that I'm going to be talking to you, and I want to admit one thing to you right now. I have no interest and knowledge of politics, legal stuff, lawyers. That's my. I hate that stuff.
Good.
I have
Good.
no interest in any.
I don't either.
That's not true. But I'm wondering. I want to know about your life, how you ended up with, your career, how it bifurcated from lawyer to politician, and then it ran into some roadblocks, nosedive.
Yeah, and Joe, don't hesitate to ask anything. I'm not like I have no triggers. I don't care. Whatever you want to talk about, you can talk about prison all you want. I don't really. It's fine.
This is why I picked you, because you're not some uptight fake whatever this fake appearance in the world. I love it. All right, well, let's start with you're born where?
Dunmore. Actually Scranton, I think at the Mercy Hospital.
Do you want to give the year or not?
Yeah, 1961.
61, and I'm born in 66, so we're not all that far apart.
Yeah.
I like how you said I think, because when I looked at my grandfather's birth, he was born in 1900, and they put there was like a 2-week window, like somewhere in this time. Like they didn't even care back then. He was born maybe in May, maybe in early June.
Well, I'm pretty positive because all the Catholics were born there back then.
That's right. Why?
They really were. So any Catholic in the Scranton area went to Mercy Hospital.
Why, they wouldn't take any Hindus or anything there?
Well, the other, Moses Taylor and CMC, I don't even know if CMC existed at the time, but Moses Taylor was for others.
No, I didn't know.
Yeah, it was a miners' hospital. And then the Catholic Sisters of Mercy set up the Mercy Hospital for Catholics.
See, I'm already learning.
Yeah.
Okay, so how about siblings, mom and dad? Who are all these people?
My mother is a Savico from Troop. She's Polish and Slovak.
This is our connection. I feel it. I knew there was something. I knew.
Yes. My grandmother's is Slovak. My grandfather on my mother's side is Polish, Julius Savico.
Okay.
A coal miner. My grandmother was a cleaning lady, and they had my mother and 3 other siblings in Troop, Pennsylvania. He was my grandfather was almost a Ralph Cramden. He'd have all these crazy schemes to make money in the coal business.
Is that right?
And they all failed. but he certainly kept his spirit up right to the end. And then my father, Italian from Dunmore, and my grandmother is a Portnova. My grandfather, Cordaro, which is Sicilian, and he came over when he was 2 years old. So we've been in America for a long time.
That's a dangerous combo when you combine those Mediterranean genes with those Northeastern European genes. Weird things happen, brother. Weird things happen.
Well, it did.
You got to watch what you say anymore in terms of generalizing people's background and ethnic heritage. But when you think of Italians, you think of these very emotional and voiced people who express everything, and the arms are flying, and they're very outgoing. And then when you think a lot of the Slovakian people and Polish, just like these hardworking, dug in, short fingered people like me, who like a lot of times keep everything inside, and so that's your combination. I love it.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Well, my Polish grandfather didn't keep anything inside.
oh, he did. Huh?
He was a good drinker too.
weren't they all back then? So you went to I imagine you're a public school guy or no?
Dunmore High School. Well, it's actually St. Anthony's grade school.
Right.
And in Dunmore, it's a Catholic school. That was a parish school. And then I went to Dunmore High School. Yes. Proud Dunmore Buck.
I was going to say, I love the public school guy. So that to me says a lot too. I thought you would be maybe a private school guy, one of these high society private schools.
Well, my mother tried to get me to do that, and I simply refused.
I love it. You got to stay with the commoners.
Yeah.
When I went to public school, also every Saturday we'd go to religious instructions with the stereotypical nuns. And it was everything that the stereotypical nuns were. They'd come in with these beaten down, worn faces. They seemed like they were about 100 years old. When I was like 10, I was going to these religious catechism gatherings, and they were mean, and you had to sit properly and address them with Sister blank and blank. Is that what you had to do too? All that?
We did a little bit of that in St. Anthony's, but it was sort of disintegrating by the time I got into the higher grades there.
Yeah.
And we misbehaved a lot.
Oh yeah, we did too. It doesn't
the priest would have to come down and hit us with a paddle.
Oh, I love it. And no one complained, right? No one complained.
No. Well, when in those days, and we'd have 50 kids and sometimes 60 when we started at St. Anthony's grade school, in a class built that could fit about 20. And you'd be on top of each other. There'd even be kids sharing desks. It was everybody went to Catholic grade school to start, and the nuns did beat you.
Yeah,
and they did hit you.
And you wouldn't even go home and tell your parents, so you wouldn't even tell them.
You would never.
No, you would keep that to yourself. I know.
Because you would get something worse than the nuns gave you. And the nuns, the beauty of the nuns, though, I got to say this, I love the sisters. They didn't tell on you either.
Oh,
when you were punished, it was over.
Yeah,
and they did what we don't do in school today. They did the 3 R's, very basic, very rudimentary, and you learn times tables, all that kind of thing. Yeah. That's with me today. I'm very appreciative for the nuns. The only thing I'm not appreciative to the nuns for, and I tell them this all the time, is they gave me this idea that I should be a public servant, and it didn't end up very well. So
they put that in your head. I love it.
Yeah, so I blame them.
So when you were like in school, elementary school, high school, or whatever, what was your mom and dad doing for a living?
My mother helped my father with his business. My father was a truck driver at a place called Rogers Trucking, and that closed down suddenly.
When you were
and probably 2 or 3. And so he was out of a job with 3 young kids. And yeah, he started driving for Bright Cleaners and Spotless Cleaners rather in Dunmore, and the Nicholas family. And then he started his own electrical contracting business when we were little babies.
I didn't know this. So did he have a background on that, or he just said,
No, he went to a free course at Penn State, Dunmore, and learned it because he had no job and had to do something, and he got into contracting.
So he becomes an electrical contractor, his own business.
Yep.
And does that mean the money's rolling in? You're walking around, you get a BMW in your 60s?
No.
All this is happening now, or no? That did not
No,
happen?
we were like everybody else when I was small. I mean, we were moving from apartment to apartment. We lived with my grandmother for a period of time. But then in troop, and then in 1964, I believe, or 64, we built a house. My father built a house in Dunmore because he had contracting friends, and they all pitched in. And that was almost the start of his business as an electrical contractor.
And that's where you grew up then, in this new house?
Yeah.
Dunmore dad's a contractor.
we moved, we were on 705 Marit Street, and on December 21st, 1969, in a blizzard, we moved down the street to Hill Street in Dunmore, only a half a block away.
Well, wait, he builds this house, and then 3 years later, you're moving to a
Well,
new.
5 years later, he built a bigger house. Yeah,
Whoa,
because it was a small house for 3 kids as we were growing.
I think you're being humble. The money's rolling in.
Not yet.
He's thinking, I'm gonna get this big new house. I'm gonna get a pool in the backyard. I'm gonna do all this, right? Dunmore. It's all going down. Oh, that's pretty cool. So
yeah,
then
he was doing progressively better, but we weren't. Fortunately, unfortunately, it seemed at the time, we weren't raised that way. We didn't get a car. We didn't, those kinds of things. I worked starting. We always had chores, but then we worked starting in 7th grade.
Did you do any electrical stuff or no?
Yeah, they tried me out.
You know Ohm's law, V = IR. Do you know that law?
Yeah, I did. I would learn very slowly, and I remember learning how to put an outlet in, and then I don't know, that kind of knowledge would just evaporate after I did it, and they ended up just having me carry things. I picked things up and I put them down.
Oh, I love it. Well, maybe that made you realize this is not for me. I should go in a different direction. These are the kind of influences that guide our lives.
Well, in 7th grade, I got a dishwashing job at the original hoagie shop in Dunmore. My father bought into it later, and I loved that job, making hoagies. I would wash the dishes from 6 in the morning, and then around 2 o'clock, the regular cook would leave, and I'd get to go in the window and make the hoagies at the original hoagie shop. And I loved that. But as soon as I told my father, I think I'd like to do this instead of go to college, he sold the business.
Is that right?
I swear, and you know how childhood memories are. I swear I worked there, I think 3 summers. And then once I made that statement that this would be a good living,
yeah, I
swear that I left on a Saturday, then the following weekend when I was going back to work, because I was working during school as well as the summers.
Yeah,
there was a strange man in there, and I said hello, and he says, "I'm Mr. Ferry." He says, I'm the new owner here. And we didn't own the hoagie shop anymore, so I worked for him.
So your dad sold his business when you were just like a teenager?
Well, that wasn't his only business. He was always an electrical contractor, and he got into all kinds of real estate and everything. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So now you're seeing your dad become this tycoon, this business guy. And now you're a teenager, you're making hoagies, you're past the nuns, and you're thinking about a career. What were you thinking? You're a senior in high school. Are you like the basketball guy? Are you the band guy? Are you the baseball guy?
Well, I played football primarily, but I wanted to be a doctor until I took chemistry in high school. And I said, I am not doing this. I don't even know if I can, but I'm not doing this. It's too hard.
How many doctors we'd have if it weren't for all those hard courses.
Yeah, I know. But I switched to, I wanted to be a lawyer after that. So I stayed on that path.
Well, here's what I want to know. I think I have this theory, and it's a foolish theory, that people are driven to become lawyers and pharmacists only for the money. Because could you be passionate about law?
No.
This is what I don't.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yes. Well, the reason I chose law is that I wanted to be a lot of things. I would have liked to have been a truck driver. My father, I watched him drive very early as a kid. I'd like to be a business guy. I'd like to be, you name it. Well, medical. I ended up representing doctors and medical facilities. You got to do everything as a lawyer. You got to be involved in all kinds of businesses as a lawyer. Entertainment.
Right. That's like the doorstep into so many other things. You're right.
Yeah. It's so it satisfied that what I liked, which was a lot of things. And so I moved forward on that.
So you're a senior in high school. You got girlfriends. You're playing football. You're drinking beer, probably in the woods outside of Dunmore.
We started early. We started earlier than that.
I know everybody did back then. I tell my kids that, and they think like our generation were like animals. I said, when you're like 13,
we were.
I know you're like. When I was like 13, I was already, one of my buddies owned a bar. I'm not going to say what it is, but his dad had the three things that a 14-year-old wants. His dad had beer at the bar, he had cigarettes, and he had dirty magazines. So we'd steal all these things from his father and go in the woods. That's what we did when we were 14, 15, 16. That's like life back then.
And we drank at cemeteries and all kinds of places. Yeah.
Not endorsing this, people, but it's just the way it was.
It's just the way it was. Not any longer. Not any longer.
So where do you go to college?
University of Rochester. I had a few choices of colleges for football, and it came down to Columbia and the University of Rochester. I chose Rochester.
Oh, it was very related? It was like a scholarship type thing?
Yeah, they would contact you when they were recruiting. And I sort of let that process take place instead of, the coaches came and recruited you. So that's how I decided where I'd look. Although I did apply and was accepted to Notre Dame, but I turned Notre Dame down because I would rather play than watch, I guess.
Right. Yeah, you gotta be a big fish in a smaller pond. So there you are in the frigid shores of Lake Ontario. Winter must be torture, snow squalls.
It didn't matter back then.
It didn't matter, right? Yeah, you don't even think about stuff like that.
And we had tunnels. It's a beautiful campus, one of the nicest in the country. And we had tunnels connecting all the buildings. So you would go out, leave your fraternity or dorm, and you would run to the tunnel, and you just could have a t-shirt on all winter.
Isn't that something I know? Never complain, probably, right?
Yeah, it didn't matter. Yeah.
I don't know the answer to my question, but I'm gonna predict ICU, if this was a football thing, like safety, maybe tight end.
Well, I'm short, so I was a linebacker.
What?
I was undersized, but I was a linebacker.
I was gonna say you're an undersized linebacker.
Yeah.
Get out.
The most I ever weighed was 190 in college, maybe even a little less.
Well, your head had to be in the ground the whole time. That's a small linebacker.
Well, low man wins. That's wrestling.
That's true. You got
that's wrestling and football.
So you go.
I will say this one thing about Dunmore High School and my coach Hens's. We were drilled. That's one of the reasons we had great teams, not necessarily great athletes, but great teams. We were drilled in the fundamentals like the Roman army was drilled. I mean, we. All right. You knew where that ball was going as soon as it was snapped. You knew where the blockers were going. He just drilled those fundamentals into our head, and a so-so athlete would become a very good football player and a very good teammate. And that's probably one of the reasons, not one of this, it's the reason that I had an opportunity to play in college.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. So did you do it for 4 years?
Yeah.
I find that as a science major, I have 2 science degrees in college. I couldn't imagine doing something like that requires and absorbs so much of your time. How do you do it? How do you
it actually
practice to me, games? How do you do all that?
It kept us more disciplined. And we played primarily in the northeastern United States. So the most you were away was a Friday night and a Saturday night.
Yeah, so practice every day for 2, 3, 4 hours, right?
I didn't say it was fun.
Yeah, I don't know how you to do that and balance academics had to be difficult, but you did it.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It wasn't particularly difficult. You did because when you finished practice, you studied.
Yeah.
And then Thursday night, you started to have fun.
And then the year is, I imagine, what, 1980?
79, I started at Rochester. 83, I graduated.
There you are, busting out into the world, 1983. Do you go back to the old man and say, I need some help, I need some money? What do you do then? What's happening?
Well, I mean, I had gotten some of my college paid for, and then I got admitted into Pennsylvania Law School, University of Pennsylvania. So I went there and
right to there, no gap, just Keep going.
Yeah, just straight through. And I sort of wish, I wish maybe no, I don't. I was wishing I just did a business, an MBA and law school. They were just starting it at the time. But no, I was happy to looking to get school over with, to be honest. I was looking to go to work and do things.
Right, but at the same time, you sound like an ambitious guy. You're playing football, you're in law school, you've got your bachelor's degree, you're kicking butt.
I taught, by the way, Joe, you could appreciate this. I student taught at St. Thomas Aquinas High School in Rochester for my fall semester of my senior year. I used to put a jacket and tie on, go down to St. Thomas Aquinas, teach during the day, come back and practice football. Yeah.
Oh, were you dabbling in another potential career, or you just help? How did that happen?
I knew I wasn't going to get to do high school teaching,
Right.
because I knew I was going to law school, but it was something I had always wanted to do. So that was my opportunity to do it. And another reason I went to Rochester is they had a program where you worked full time on Capitol Hill. And I did that as well, my junior year.
Jeez, I love it. So when does it all lead to a professional career and you're a man of the world? What's your first job out of the
Well,
academic?
during law school, I worked for law firms in Philadelphia and Los Angeles. And you would get recruited. So New York just wasn't of interest to me at the time. But primarily Philadelphia, New York, and Los Angeles were recruiting.
Were you
so
that guy saying, I want to come back to the Northeast, or I want to go to Chicago, or I want to go to what were you thinking at the time? Did you want to leave the area?
No, part of me was certain I was coming back. And that's why I worked in Philadelphia. That's why I worked in Washington. That's why I worked in Los Angeles, because I said, let me experience these places.
Right.
Because I'm going to come back. But I also was open to the possibility of staying at any one of them, because I loved all three cities.
So at that time, what was your ultimate goal? Did you see yourself having a law firm? Did you see yourself having working for a firm? Did you see yourself being a corporate lawyer? What did you see?
Well, there was sort of a night and day, because the firms that I was with were very, very large corporate firms, and they had all kinds of departments: litigation, labor, business, you name it. So you would rotate through and see what all of those did. And then the Los Angeles firm focused on venture capital, with the future mayor, Dick Reardon was our boss. And so you saw a lot of it, and I just decided I don't want to work for a big firm. Oh. And I came home and opened up a solo practice here.
Oh, did you? So what year is it now when you did that?
1986.
Get out of here. There you are. New lawyer back in where? Scranton, Dunmore? I don't know.
Scranton, Dunmore. Yeah.
There it is. You got your little, your gold foil name on the door, I imagine. Yeah. You got you're this 20-something punk.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, what is it with you lawyers? Lawyer jokes are so common. What do you think they're deserved? You guys are like, are you a little weaselly? You're weaselly, aren't you?
They're deserved. I
You're
don't know why.
necessary evil.
Yeah, I don't know why it is, but very, very many lawyers don't finish anything. And I don't know why that is, but it's and they leave things hanging, and sometimes people get upset, and that's the way it goes. And remember, on the unfair side of that reputation, you've already have a problem when you come to see me.
Yeah.
So now you're expecting very often perfection to ensue. And I would tell clients, look, you've got a problem. All I can do is limit the damage.
Okay.
And that was in the case of many. And that's, in a way, that's why I gravitated to business law, because many of the issues you would handle, although I always did some criminal cases, ironically, but a lot of the people that you would represent, they came to you and they were just never going to be satisfied.
So so did you love it? Were you doing all types of, or you said you're going into business law? Were you doing, a guy stubbed his toe on the escalator at Boscov's, he came to you, or no? It was all
Well, you would get,
divorces,
I would get personal injury in the beginning, but then they started to allow lawyer advertising. And over the course of the late 80s to the 90s, almost all of that business went to those firms that advertised. So it wasn't anything I loved anyway. So I moved towards business.
I didn't realize that. So there was a time you couldn't even advertise on television. Then it all blew up.
Correct. So
And
if they
now all the
knew
commercials, why are all lawyer commercials so serious? They come in, here it is, Snedeker, Cordaro, and they're all standing in front of the old judicial scale. I mean, you guys have to lighten up. What's with all that seriousness?
Well, now look at the thing. I don't like lawyers advertising. I wish it never happened. And I never really did it. However, the people who do come to lawyers sometimes have.
It's always a serious situation.
It's certainly serious for them. And it could be death, it could be dismemberment, it could be all kinds of things. So I think they want a serious lawyer.
That's why I guess I steered away from that. I couldn't even.
Yeah, you can't have a laugh about a lost leg. Yeah.
The unserious lawyer, Snedeker and Snedeker. I don't know. Can't pull that out. So how long you doing that? Years.
I did that. Well, I was also in business because when I first got home, a guy named Vince Luciano, who used to be the program director at the old WSCR, approached me. And he said, there's a radio license available, but you have to build the station. And that was AM 750 WWAX in Oliphant.
So these are like you hear of bar licenses. There's only a few allowed. And
this was a new AM license in 1986, and there was a great guy by the name of Jim Emmel, who'd been around radio forever, and
your light bulb's going off. You got an idea?
Oh, yeah, automatically. So I built the radio station and went into that business, and then in 1991 I got a brand new license for an FM station, 95.7.
You built this thing brick and mortar?
I built the AM. Well, I didn't personally build it.
But this is a new facility.
Company, raised the money. My company built the AM 750 and then FM 95.7.
Now 95.7.
One time
still exists?
Yeah, it still exists.
They're rock. They're hard rock.
Susquehanna Broadcasting at the time.
Oh,
you remember Jimmy Loftus? Jimmy Loftus is one of the all-time greats in the local radio business. He approached me. We moved down into the old Warm building with 95.7, and I bought 1,500 off of Jim Ward before he died.
You bought what now?
I think he agreed to 1,500, the old WARD. And
I see.
At that time, I had sold 750. I had 95.7 and 1,500. We moved to the old Warm building. I was looking for that Karma off of Route 81 in what's that? DuPont, Duryea.
Yeah.
So at that point, we were serious enough of a competition. Jimmy Loftus approached me and said, we want to buy you. And I leased them to the station for a while, and then he bought us out. But I had Kevin Lynn and Joe Zone, both, it was all sports, both doing a show together, Afternoon Drive.
Yeah. So Kevin Lynn was on my podcast a few months ago, and Joe Zone, of course, worked at WNEP, very well known. So when he was working at WNEP, he was doing this too, you mean, or no?
No, this was after he was gone from NEP.
Oh, get out!
He'd been in Connecticut and Syracuse, and I brought him back to do this radio show.
And how long did all this last? Did it work
I think
out?
that
It
was working very well, which is why they offered to buy.
Get out.
And at that time the radio business was deregulating, so you could own and lease stations in your market more than just two, because the rules when I got into it, 1 FM, 1 AM, period.
And that's
Those
before
little-
corporate America took all over all the stations too, right? This was,
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, I looked at the radio business. It was like a game of musical chairs, and I was being offered a chair. And at some point, you had better get out. And I thought there were a hell of a lot better radio operators than me. So let me get out.
So could you look into the camera, wherever it is on your thing, and say, I'm now in my 20s, 30s, whenever this was, and I'm a lawyer, and now I'm a businessman, and you were just pulling in the money. You were a big shot. The money's oozing out of every orifice in your body. You're buying houses, cars. That's my impression. Lawyer, business guy, radio station owner. Is this true?
Well, I had 5 kids, so you, as you know,
yeah.
when you have 5 kids, you don't have a lot of toys.
Right, but this was probably lucrative at the time, right? And then a buyout.
Yeah, it was. I did pretty well. Yeah.
Oh, that's excellent. So now when does the dirty business of politics ooze in? When does it seep into your life?
I had run for Congress in 1988 and had
Whoa.
won the Democratic nomination for Congress.
But how does that even start? You say I want to.
I was approached by someone that was in my law office. There was a guy who was a disciple of this real character by the name of Lyndon LaRouche, and he was going to win the Democrat nomination for Congress, and they couldn't get anybody to run because the eventual opponent was Joe McDade, who was in forever and incredibly popular. So they couldn't get anybody to do this, so they asked me at the right time. I said sure, and I did it.
You must have to put a lot of capital. A lot of money invested.
Well,
say I'm going to do it.
It was a lot of shoe leather, a lot of shoe leather for that campaign. I knew I wasn't going to win,
and you did it.
So I was going to waste a lot of money on it.
Yeah,
you know.
But you kind of liked it.
I could go out and.
But
I could go out and tell people what I believed.
You like the power. You like the attention. You like the having your opinions matter and making changes in lives. Do you like all this? Is that what's going on?
Not really. No, I actually hated politics.
You hated it.
Believe it or not, I hated politics. I felt an obligation to get involved. But as I said when I was in prison, I said, I will take the 1,200 people in this prison over 1,200 people in politics any day.
Oh my goodness, I love it.
It's
a lot right there. But so I don't know the dates here because I told you I'm politically ignorant.
1988 was when I ran for
right.
US
And then
Congress.
when did you win a seat somewhere? And I don't even know.
I went 10 years later.
Oh, okay, so quite a time later.
Yeah, a number of people approached me in 1999 to run for county commissioner. And I decided if I'm going to run for real, because remember, I knew the McDade thing.
But after the late 80s that failed, in the late 90s, there was no political aspiration.
I was a solicitor in Dunmore, which was plenty of politics.
Yeah, okay.
But in 1999, people approached me to run for county commissioner, and I had to decide what party I would be. And I ran as a Republican and became the minority commissioner after a very contentious election in 1999.
All right, so go ahead.
So,
give me an education. I don't even know what that role involves.
Well, Lackawanna County and county government in general runs most of your social services. At the time that I ran, Lackawanna County owned the Red Barons baseball team. Okay. We own the Montage Ski Resort. We own the nursing home. Yes.
That's kind of unusual for a county.
Well, I used to say, when I was running for office, I said there are 2 socialist economies in the Western Hemisphere, Cuba and Lackawanna County.
So that is rare then? If you go to other places in our beautiful country, counties, political system do not own baseball teams or ski resorts or nothing like that.
No, and nor should they. They don't know
I didn't know that. So that was almost experimental.
Yeah, and my job, we were bankrupt, and I mean bankrupt. We hadn't even paid a bill other than payroll when I became majority commissioner in 2003 election.
Who owned those two examples that you gave me before the county bought them? They were failings from the private industry or no?
The one was a public-private partnership of the Chamber of Commerce, Montage.
Montage.
And actually the county, Commissioners Alberigi and Corcoran, very bravely stepped in and took it over when it was going bankrupt.
So either it would have become a ghost town,
Yes.
so to speak, or county needs to help.
Yes.
Oh, that makes
And then,
sense.
but then, you know, it was over 10 years later, you still own it and you're losing $1 million a year. It's time to end it.
Oh, I see. Right. So, and then the people are saying we own something through government that's losing money. Why are they doing this?
Yes.
And that makes the public, the voters, enraged.
Apparently, and I tried to enrage them, and I tried to enrage them as much as I could.
Oh, this is interesting. See, I didn't know this. So your job is you're overseeing social programs, whether it's state parks, lakes,
area.
busing.
We have a park system, and we added that. We have authorities that run the railroad. We have authorities that ran the bus system. We have authorities that ran a sewer authority up in the Mid Valley area. We had area agency on aging, children and youth services, the court system.
Got it. Okay, so you in a group would govern all this, and you were
Well,
like,
no, it wasn't a group at the time.
It was
and
just
it's
you.
it still isn't in Lackawanna County. 2 majority commissioners and 1 minority commissioner. So the guys that win govern, and this isn't normally. It hasn't been. It's not always normal, but
Right.
the 2 that win govern together, and the other guy's the watchdog. And I was the watchdog for 4 years, and then became the one that governs.
but all these decisions are really just coming from those 2-3 people. I didn't
Yes.
know that. Oh, that's
Which is the way it should be.
Oh, that's interesting. So
Because it's accountability. I always talk about Luzerne County. In fact, when I was minority commissioner, it looked like I would be permanently minority commissioner because I was Republican. They brought me down for their to speak on their study to change from the county commissioner form of government to the county council they have now. And I think they assumed I was going to be for the county council. And I said, so your solution, because you're not happy with the 3 politicians there, is to have 11. So,
hey, don't get into politics. I'm bored already.
yeah, I know.
But anyway,
But I thought it should be, and still think it should be 3 people who are accountable.
it's more direct. You're saying it's not watered down amongst a group. It's more direct. You did this, sir. Is this where
And
you got in trouble?
in our case, we were bankrupt. We were bankrupt and insolvent. All right. So we had to take immediate actions. And if we ever had a council or a large group, we couldn't have brought the county out of financial trouble.
Insolvent in science, that would be like putting a piece of plastic in water. Insolvent. But anyway, so is this where you got into trouble?
Yes, as county
It is.
commissioner. Yes.
So I mean, what do I have to worry about what I say now? I don't know.
No.
What happens? How do you get in trouble?
Well,
What are the
politics, the way politics is, and we beat everybody to the punch here in northeastern Pennsylvania. The way politics is played around here is they try to destroy whoever their opponents are. And I mean, like, destroy them so they can't come back. And, you know, they investigated me for 4 years. And then finally, people who were in trouble for other things, and this is the way federal investigations go, people who were in trouble for other things unrelated to me decided to use myself and AJ to get out of trouble.
I don't know what you mean.
Well, if they agreed to testify, their troubles would go away.
Oh, I see. Gotcha.
And all of a sudden, their stories to the FBI started to change from, oh, we never gave them money, they never asked us for money, and all of a sudden we forced them to give them money.
So
And
in your
that's how-
opinion, there's fabrication involved.
It was a lot of work to get to the prosecution they got to.
But what would a
The
Bob,
short version is, as we were, as politicians, as Republicans in Lackawanna County, people didn't want to be on record giving you contributions because they would get in trouble with their other business and the Democrat Party, which has had even much more sway then than they do now. So they would give us cash campaign contributions. Well, what the federal government did is basically turn those into bribes. The people were convinced to multiply the amounts they supposedly gave us, and here we are on trial. And then we did a very poor job at the trial, and we lost.
What would they say what would they say? Those anti-Bob Cordaros, what would they say you did with the money? They would say you took it and spent
these things, remember, it's not anti-me personally.
All right.
It's the federal government has an incentive to prosecute people. The higher up the food chain, and I was offered to cooperate and just refused to. So the higher up the food chain they can go, the better it is for whoever is prosecuting you. All the incentives are sort of perverse.
Yeah, but so your defense is they needed something to do and you were something for them.
Well,
wasn't there a money trail somehow that this can be directly traced?
No, there wasn't. They had to get people to testify that there was, and they did.
You're saying these are the people, in your opinion, who fabricated.
Yeah, they had to get themselves out of trouble, and they got themselves out of trouble.
Interesting. So do you remember?
It's the way the federal system works, and it needs to be fixed because they've got too much power. But I mean, I'm not the only victim. I mean, and I'm not a victim. I decided with my eyes wide open, and you know what, Joe, the problem with politics is you don't choose who you surround yourself with. And they come to you and you say, oh, good, I could use that help, or I could use that friend, or whatever. And I made the mistake, and among many, to surround myself with some people who ended up hurting me and using my office to extort money. They actually did do it.
Okay.
And
they figure if since the fish rots from the head down, it's connected to you.
Once they were caught, they said, I told them.
I got you. I got you. So do you remember that one day? Was there that one day when I get in trouble in life, whether it's at work, whether it's with my wife, I feel like a rash develop. It comes up my neck and I get all hot. Do you remember that one day where you thought, oh my goodness, I might be getting in trouble here? Now, and I'm not saying you deserve that trouble. I'm just saying,
yeah. The funny part about politics is you feel like you're in trouble every day. So it wasn't a different feeling. It was just more of the same.
Okay. I get that.
Yeah. When they announced the indictment, I was driving around in my car listening to it. Coincidentally, ironically is a word my son, it's used too poorly too often. Okay. But coincidentally, driving around listening to WILK and the press conference indicting myself and AJ Munchak.
You must have known that could have happened, right? Or no? You didn't even know that could have happened?
Yeah, it was slowly coming. They had approached us to make a deal, and I had refused to make a deal. And then they indicted us in March of 2010.
So instead of this one being an explosion all of a sudden one day, this thing was magma slowly seeping in every day, here, there. So it wasn't like one big day, but that one day you felt it.
Yeah, because for years before, people would be calling me and saying, the feds are calling me about you.
Oh God, right.
And letting me know that and telling me what they were telling me what they were told to say. And they were informing me of this for like 3 years.
So are you start getting nervous? Are you start?
No, I don't.
Your wife saying, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe this could happen." Your kids, you're saying, "Oh God." And what was that one day when this happened? Guilty. Did you just go? Boom?
Well,
that happened.
We did such a poor job defending ourselves at the trial that I still felt we could be found not guilty, but when I was found guilty, I wasn't shocked.
You were not.
No.
But were you at? But
we didn't present any defense. We didn't present any defense.
Well, that's a lawyer saying that too. I mean, why?
I know. I followed. You know how there's always an exception to the rule.
Yeah.
I followed the case where they say a lawyer who represents himself has a fool for a client. Well, I had fools for lawyers.
Oh man.
And I should have stepped in and stopped the trial, frankly, when I saw that they were not prepared, and I didn't. And I didn't see any way we could be convicted. I really didn't, even to the end.
But then when it happened, that one day when you're like, I can't believe I'm going to prison.
Well, I felt like it was still going to get straightened out. I really did.
Oh, you really did? Well, when
Because-
I'm just saying, because I can relate to you, and I don't know why. I just think we have some overlapping personality characteristics. But what
Well, I
I'm
told
saying,
you there was like two guys. There was guys that in prison would tell me, because when I moved back to this area at Allenwood, they say, "Hey, is that guy your cousin on TV?" And I knew who they were talking about.
I have a feeling that your great grandfather and my great grandfather are the same person, but who knows? But that moment you realize you are going to prison. You are no longer a free man. Do you sleep at night? Do you, is it stress? Is it anxiety? Like, what is that feeling? I imagine.
Well, I mean, I've always had a very deep belief in God.
Okay.
And part of that belief, as I have formed it, nobody deserves anything. And bad things happen to people all the time. And this was a man-made catastrophe. Actually, a man-made disaster. I could turn it into a catastrophe, but it was a man-made disaster. I had friends losing their parents, losing children, losing their wives, losing their husbands. How do you stack up? People getting cancer that I know. I could not stack up my problems with theirs. So I never looked at it like a big deal. I just didn't.
Dude, you're winning my respect. You put it in perspective and thought this could be much worse. I like your attitude. I love it.
Yeah, my parents were alive. My kids were healthy. Everybody was fine. I was going to prison. I mean, what I don't. I just didn't think it was a big deal. And I looked at it as though I'm observing as much as I am participating in this whole crime and punishment thing. And that's how I approached it.
So when did that happen?
I will say this, January 30th, I go into the courtroom and they're going to sentence you. And he sentences me to 11 years, which is a staggering amount of time for like a political crime. Like most politicians, like Ernie Priek got 14 months. We thought it was all the time in the world, way back when.
Oh, I see.
And I get 11 years, and I'm like,
that was a total shock. Like you were saying.
No, the feds were trying for 30. Oh. They wanted 30 to life. That's the way political prosecutions are. They want to destroy you.
And so that day, what were you assigned? How many?
Well, the funny part is normally a white collar guy, he goes out and they give him a couple months to report. In fact, AJ Munchak had a couple months to report.
All right.
I go in and I've been around the federal justice system. I'd represented some people. Well, when you see the U.S. Marshals and agents moving up along the side of the walls, you're going away.
Wow.
And so I see them moving up alongside the walls.
Like a scene in a movie, like a scene.
Yeah, I'm not leaving the courtroom. I'm going into the back. I'm going into the back room, and I asked to say my goodbyes. I said my goodbyes, and I went back, and 8 years and 5 months later, I finally got out.
Oh my goodness. So we can do
I went right back. Yeah.
We can do a whole hour on those 8 years, but when you do go, did you still think, even though you said it ended up being 8 years, did you think while you started your first year, second year, this is going to be over in 6 months, or did you know this?
Yeah, I truly did. As we and maybe me more than anybody, but as I kept uncovering more and more evidence, because I didn't have my own legal files.
All right.
As I kept uncovering more and more evidence, and I got my whole file and I went through it and I filed for ineffective counsel, I didn't see how I could lose there either. We had disproven the testimony of the people who were against us, and they got their deals, and we pointed out what our lawyers didn't do. And I
But that probably
incredibly,
helps, because if you know you're not, if you believe this is not going to last 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, then it keeps you going. So it's better off not
it may
knowing
have,
how long
and
it's going
plus
to go.
during that period of time, which probably helped, I was in 11 different prisons.
This was my next question. So
Yeah.
what facility, what type you going? Is it minimum security or something? How does that work?
I started at Pike County in maximum security. And then I went to Brooklyn, which is also maximum security. Then I went to Fort Dix, which is
Brooklyn.
is minimum. Brooklyn, New York, yeah.
But what can so I can't believe this. So
I had the full experience.
you want to talk,
buses, midnight, 2 o'clock buses, shotguns,
I was gonna say,
shotguns surrounding you as you're being escorted in belly chains. I had the whole deal. I used to say, Joe, I was on the bus so many times, and transportation was one of the, most prisoners will tell you, transportation is one of the toughest parts of prison.
I would think that'd be the best part. You get a break, you're cruising, you're moving.
Well, because you're going into these holding cells with 40 people, and of all sort of classifications, all sorts of crimes, filthy, dirty. My joke was, I said, if you see a crappy bus driving down the highway, now it might be a second-rate touring band, but it might be a group of prisoners. And I said, the only difference between the prisoners and the second-rate touring band is that if it's the touring band, the drummer's not chained to the floor. But yeah, I saw, Brooklyn, and,
when you're in prison, though, do they care if you are first degree involuntary manslaughter versus a political crime? How does that work? Or are you guys all stuck together?
Not in places like Brooklyn, no.
No, so you're in with some bad dudes.
Sure. And you're in with bad dudes in minimum security. They're just inside 10 years on their sentence.
Yeah.
But I was at every type of facility. We have a penitentiary up here, Canaan, and I was there 3 times.
The Waymar one.
Yeah, Waymart. Well, it's Canaan is what it's, USP Canaan.
Yeah.
It's one of the toughest prisons in the country. And I'll tell you, if you know somebody that works there, give them your respect, because they're in with a lot of dangerous characters.
I know. So I can talk an hour for you with this, but I know you have to go soon. I'm wondering, give me some of the cliches that are true or not true. I seem to be fascinated with prison life, even though I have.
Well, it's interesting, except for those who are incarcerated.
No, but I mean, are you scared for your life on a daily basis, or do you win the respect of friends? Is it almost like when you're in high school and you have to know what routes to take and what games to play and who to talk nice to and who to schmooze with? Is it?
Well, it's like a really tough high school, I guess, and sometimes there's weapons. But look, I am not a tough guy. I didn't try to be a tough guy.
Yeah, you don't seem it.
That was number one. I was who I was in prison as I was outside. And
but does that work?
People appreciate. Yeah, it worked.
It worked.
People appreciated it. I mean, if you have to punch somebody in the face, you punch them in the face first.
I was gonna say, you can't be taken advantage of, though. Is there?
No, you never allow that to happen. And you have choices in prison. Now, you can either, if somebody bumps you intentionally to test you, whether it's out on the track or in the building or whatever.
I love it. The bump. You're setting up the movie scene. Okay, there's the bump.
Yeah, you have a choice to either push back or slink away. My view is, I have 11 years. I'm not going to slink away. I'm certainly not going to look for it.
All right.
But I'm not going to slink away. And I didn't. And I made friends with a lot of people that'll be friends for my whole life.
So you did get into altercations?
Sure.
You did?
They're inevitable.
I don't see you making a fist. Boom. I don't see that. Why don't I see that?
Good.
Maybe it's the suit. I can't see that. Would I survive there? I mean, I can't.
Look, if you're not looking for trouble,
right?
It's not constant pressure, and in the higher level prisons, you get into groups, which are called cars. And your car could be the Italian mafia guys. It could be the guys from Pennsylvania. It could be the guys from Philly. It could be, you know, it could be the Muslims. It could be, you know, whatever group you
So there's
have an affinity towards.
right.
But Joe, one of the key things for me is that I was unwilling to be pushed around, and that gets known pretty quickly. But the other part is that I wasn't trying to push anybody else around.
Okay, right. You're not the aggressor.
And I wasn't trying to pose as some tough guy, some street fighter.
Just standing your ground.
And then I went to trial. This is a big deal at any level, from the penitentiary level on down. I went to trial and I did not rat on my case. And with the real tough guys in a prison, that goes a long way.
The cred.
And so I always, it was funny when I was with the Italian mafia guys, and they actually checked. I'd take my paperwork with me from my sentencing minutes, so that and they would ask for it.
They want,
because they couldn't be caught hanging around. If you were a rat, they weren't hanging around with you.
No, but what if you weren't Italian? Would they take you?
Not really.
What do you mean?
Well, the funny part is I was charged with RICO as a county commissioner. And that's the Racketeering Influence Corrupt Organization Act, which all the mafia guys are convicted on.
Oh, okay.
And so they thought I was, you know, initially when they see the paperwork, they would think I was some kind of mafia guy. Plus I got 11 years. They were like, this guy couldn't have been in politics.
Oh man, yeah, right.
But the other part is if you are truthful with why you're there and what you did and all that kind of thing and what you didn't do, they'll respect you for that. And so, I mean, I got along with all types. I got along with the Muslims. I got along with the Bloods. I got along with the white supremacists. I got along with the Paisa. I got along with the MS-13. I got along with everybody. I really did. And
so as a guy who has soared with the eagles and slithered with the snakes, could you say that people are just?
I want to say this. This is important. I didn't look at my fellow prisoners that way, except for the ones that were scumbags. And there's a lot walking around among us that never went to prison. Probably a hell of a lot more than are in prison. But no, I never looked at it that way. Nor did I look at anybody who was in prison that way until they acted that way.
That's great. No judgment. Yeah, everyone deserves respect.
I'm there too. Who am I going to judge? I'm with you. And in many cases, I had a longer sentence. So I'm going to judge you.
And they must
I'm either guilty or I'm dumber than you are.
So could you say from all of these encounters that people, the majority, are generally good, maybe bad circumstances, but good?
Capable of good.
Some people are just
there were people that I became friends with. They had such terrifying lives growing up.
We're all the victim of
horrible lives growing up. There were many people in prison, by the way, and some I represented even before I went to prison myself.
Oh man.
There were many people who were better off. They felt comfortable. They felt natural in prison. They would sabotage themselves when they were getting out. Because they were afraid of the outside. They were afraid of what that would be, their loss of status.
Right. Yeah.
You know, if you could stand up in prison, you could develop a status and a routine, and you do get fed, and you do get, you know, basic clothing, and you know, you could create a hustle, stealing out of the cafeteria or making candy or doing all kinds of stuff, doing laundry. So a lot of people would develop a pattern of life that made them comfortable.
Right.
And the outside was a little bit frightening. I mean, the longest sentence of anybody I was with for an extended period of time, because I was with lifers in Brooklyn and Philadelphia. That's another guys have 65-year sentences, 50-year sentences. So they had
redeeming qualities, you're saying, but yet.
Yeah, oh, they did. They did. I mean, are they going to be allowed at my house? Probably not. But some of them will, because I got to know them. You see a guy, you might see a guy 20 times in a day. Think of how often you see your best friend.
Yeah,
and
once
you're seeing him everywhere. You're seeing him in the worst circumstances, maybe, of his life. You're seeing him in you see how they dress, you see how they clean themselves, you see how they eat.
Yeah.
You see how they interact with all different types of people, because remember, you're the minority there. And my friends, you see how all of those people interact and what they do and how they handle each other. So you know more about a lot of those guys in a very short period of time than maybe I thought I had friends and they testified against me.
Oh yeah. But it says a lot. You're corresponding to my theory, which is that everyone, not necessarily a theory, but I think most people realize that we're just the victims of our genes and our surroundings and our upbringing. And there's this one, I think, psychologist.
Well, we're subject to those things. I don't think we're victims at all. I think that's our choice. Our choice whether we're victims or not.
There's the philosopher who says, give me a baby, a newborn, and I can turn that thing into Adolf Hitler, or I can turn it into the Pope. There's
probably that's a very arrogant philosopher.
You know what I mean? Like, we're all just, if you're
there are tendencies, and I see tendencies in people, both in and out of prison, that would lead them. They just not capable of being straight.
Right.
When they say, "Oh, you doing that? Is it legit?" Of course it's legit. But
to an extent, you know what I mean. If you talk to most child molesters, they were molested as children.
Well, now that's my observation of the child molesters, because that was really coming to the fore when I was in my last couple of years, because that's low hanging fruit. They generally just roll over and
is that right?
And they get heavy sentences.
No.
And it helps the statistics of all kinds, racial statistics, white collar versus blue collar, you name it.
Interesting.
But they were the scary people in a lot of ways, because they were not capable of controlling their urges, and they put really innocent people and helpless people at risk. So we looked at them as bullies. I was nice to them.
Yeah.
But it was very hard. It was, in fact, my real prison friends did not allow you to be friends with them.
Well, I was gonna say, I thought they'd be the lowest on the hierarchy of prison scale, aren't they?
They were. They and the rats, but we called them. Yeah. They were the lowest on the totem pole in the prison pecking order.
I think that the phrase that we all learned when we were in third grade carries on forever. Snitches get stitches, right? I mean, there's something?
Yeah, but I mean, you got to be willing. Whoever wants to be the enforcer there has to be willing to spend more time in prison.
Good point. So this is how long? This is 8 years.
8 years, 5 months to the day.
So when did you know that there's light at the end of the tunnel? When did that happen?
Well, I always thought there was.
No, but when did you get a concrete date? This is over then, or didn't you?
Literally 2 weeks before. I was fighting with the prison to let me out, because they don't. That's the thing about the federal government. They don't follow the law, and I was suing them to follow the law, the First Step Act specifically, which should have had me out in January of 2020. And they were refusing to let me out, and I was suing, and I think they finally figured we got to get rid of this pain in the ass. And 2 weeks before, now earlier in the year, somewhere around March, they told me I'm leaving. And I waited until they gave me confirmation. Then they told me I was leaving, and I called my parents and said, they're telling me I'm leaving. I told my kids, they're telling me I'm leaving. And then I didn't leave. They pulled the rug out from under me last minute. So then they tell me again in June, or rather April, I'm sorry, in May, that you're going to be leaving.
May have.
And I'm like, yeah, right. And it eventually turned out to be true on June 30th of last year.
June 30th of last year. So
And
not
I was
even
in January 12th or January 30th of 2012. I went to prison.
unbelievable. Does this give you? Well, I have another question. Now that you mentioned your parents, were you still unjudged, loved, and respected by all family members, or you?
Yeah, my family was just great. Well, see, they had the benefit of knowing my case, the case that wasn't presented at trial, and then the case that I presented to the judges and the appeals courts. So
everybody's on your side the whole time, obviously.
Yeah, they knew I wasn't guilty, so they were very supportive, and they would have been supportive anyway, I think. But
yeah, but everyone has like a weird uncle who's like, yeah, good for Robert, let him get.
Probably, but I mean, those kind of things don't bother me. Everybody's entitled to an opinion.
Yeah, they don't. So
but no, my family was great. They were just absolutely great, and so many friends.
Your wife didn't leave you for another man?
We got separated and divorced long before this happened.
So, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, that was maybe, I don't know, fortunate for her anyway.
During your prison time? No,
before.
Oh, before. So when you went to prison, there was no wife. There was no woman in your life.
Well, there was, but then that ended pretty quickly.
Oh, so there was a second marriage or just a woman?
No, just a very
partner.
Close relationship.
Oh, okay, gotcha. All right. Yeah, well, that's tough to maintain. And then you have the other women who are attracted to guys who are in prison. Did you see that? They're coming to you. They're writing letters.
Well,
Bobby, I want to visit you.
There were not for me, but I watched guys. There's literally specific websites for women who will go to visit prisoners.
Talk about
and friends of mine did it, and I'm like, are you going to see this person after you're out? And they would say, probably not, but it's fun now. Yeah, it's like anything else. Just like with Weatherman, there's a subculture.
Ah, yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. Subculture with everything.
Yes.
There are subcultures of subcultures.
Yeah, exactly.
If someone has maybe heart disease and they have an open heart surgery, if someone has cancer and it's totally cured, is this similar to what happened to you when you are finally a free man? Did you feel like you are?
Well, I'm not yet, Joe. I'm still on home confinement. I still have an ankle bracelet.
When you left,
it's a huge difference. But at the end of July, when I get to go on supervised release, and by the way, that's another 3 years.
Oh, okay.
But when I get to rid of the ankle bracelet and can leave the house when I want and go where I want and I'll have a drink, whatever, that'll be like being freed again.
Yeah, but leaving the prison system, wasn't that
it was
an amazing feeling? Is it like?
It was a great feeling, but it was something I had anticipated and imagined so much that when it happened, I was ready for it. It wasn't, and again, I always look at it like you got to be part observer and part participant in your own life, or you miss a lot of interesting things.
The old drop the soap thing, that's just a stereotype. That's just right.
No, there's sex in prison.
All right, so that kind of happens.
It kind of happens.
All right, we can't go too deep into that then. Now,
so it didn't happen to me, and I was not going to let it happen to me.
You kept the soap firmly in your hand the whole time.
Yes.
So when I would think, I don't know how this works. Once you're out, and I know you're still in the process, but financially, what happens? You seem to be a man of family support and means, and you have money maybe stashed away. But how do you just jump?
No, I'm at zero.
I mean, how do you get health insurance?
I lost everything.
Is that right?
Yeah, fighting the feds. I lost everything. Like I had clothes that are now 15 years old.
Dude, well, to
But
me,
no,
you're a story. Look, you're laughing. You learn from your experience. To me, there's something
well,
admirable
Joe,
about all this.
I had a saying that I would tell my kids during this process. I said, just because it's happening to you doesn't mean it's not funny.
See, you can
It's
laugh
funny.
at yourself.
I mean,
This is why you're here,
funny.
because you can laugh. I love people who can laugh at themselves. That's the key to everything.
It is, isn't it funny?
It really is.
Ridiculous.
There's
It's
no
ridiculous.
there's no 2x4 up your rear end. I don't like uptight people. I love it. So,
I'm the only guy in the country doing a radio show with an ankle bracelet.
that should be the sell right there.
It's absolutely insane. How could you not be amused by all of this?
I know. Well, that's a great attitude you have. I appreciate that, and you're everyone else does. Do you can't practice law in any way now, or can you someday?
In 5 years I can apply, but I don't know if 65 years old is the right time to start a law practice.
Do you get to have like everybody else now, Social Security at 65, Medicare and all that? All that's back, right, or no?
Yeah, I mean, but again, it all depends on what you paid into it.
Right.
But yeah, you can do all that. Because I don't have anything. I've got to work till whenever. I mean, hopefully I'm healthy for the rest of my life, and can continue working. But I anticipate I'll have to continue because I don't have anything.
Are you in the house that you built, that you not grew up in, but that you established?
Yeah, that I.
So you didn't lose your house?
Well, no, I lost my house.
Oh, you lost your house?
Yeah, I lost my own house. Well, I did lose everything other than some furniture and some clothes.
Get out. Wow.
Yeah.
So
you know what though, Joe, I always would tell the kids, and it almost becomes a meme, but like, if I had to start from zero again, I'd enjoy it and I'd be able to do it. Well, it's time to walk the walk.
see, folks, so if you're listening now or watching and you're saying, I do like Bob, I don't like Bob, you got to, we all have to agree. The attitude is good. The attitude is inspiring to me.
Well, I had a guy call in, Joe, I had a guy call in the other day, or 2 weeks ago. And he said, well, first of all, I want to tell you, I don't like you and I never liked you. So you have some of that. There's nothing you can do. And I am bloviating with these opinions on the air. And some people take that. I separate it from the people. If they disagree with me, I try to separate it from the people, unless they're public figures, by the way. But normal people, I try to separate what they believe and say from them personally, because there's always a common ground with, and I have a lot of friends that are, liberals and left wingers and all that kind of thing. So I don't take it personally, but some people do.
Oh gosh. So now, how did you get that gig on radio? And if you want to listen to Robert every day, you're on what time?
I'm on noon to 3 every day.
So could you?
I replaced Rush Limbaugh on WILK, which is an honor. And I got to say this: the management, when I think it was Frank Andrews wanted to interview me, and my family wasn't ready for me to do that kind of thing yet when I first got out. And it made me think, well, and by the way, I was going for all these jobs. So, but when you're on home confinement, you can't work for yourself and you can't work for your family, and you can't travel. If, for a sales job, you can't move around during the day. So you have to go someplace, do the job, and come home. So I had 7 or 8 jobs that I had to turn down, and then I couldn't work for myself because I told them at the halfway house, I said, listen, this may sound funny, but I've never had a job. So I don't know what you expect me to do now. And they said, we expect you to go get a job. And so I had to look for a job, and I tried to substitute teach. And apparently when they looked at the criminal record, and I think part of the notoriety, because there was actually a part that benefited the Kelly services to hire ex-cons. Well, I'm not an ex-con, I'm a convict, but to hire people that are coming out of prison. But I think they saw the notoriety and so we don't want to deal with that, the newspaper or whatever.
Yeah.
So I couldn't teach. And then once I couldn't teach, I said, well, I better see if they'll let me do the radio. And WILK, they gave me the shot, and it was worked out part-time, and they offered me full-time. So you got to give them, the management there, and then Odyssey, our parent company. Now, this is a big company, 230 radio stations.
Right.
And it went up the food chain to see whether to hire me.
That's risky. That is risky.
I give them a lot of credit. They got guts, and they've stuck by me. They've let me say anything I wanted to say unless it's inflammatory.
Right.
And I love this company. I love this station. It's an honor.
And how about the way life is? Maybe this could be a bust out career. Maybe you'll love it more than anything you've done in life, and that never would have happened if it weren't for prior life situations, right? Do you feel like you love it?
Well, there's a lot of things to talk about, and I do believe I have a unique perspective. There's not a lot of people talking about issues that had, and it is mostly a political show, which I wish it was more, but I've had business experience and training, and I've had political experience at all levels and training. And then the training as a lawyer and as I guess a prisoner, a father, so I've had a lot of experience, and hopefully that comes across and is, but radio to me, and even TV, it's who do they want to are they willing to hang around with you? Do they get something out of it such that they're willing to hang around with you? Are they comfortable? But do they learn something? And are you willing to learn from them? I hope that comes across. And if it does, I'll be successful.
And you're probably running into a lot of people who now, were never truly your friend. They don't want to be associated with you because of maybe your reputation. You see a lot of that. People,
almost none of that. Almost none of that. It has been really.
That says you're a lovable guy.
It's been really great. I can't. Except for a couple of people, and there's always exceptions, but they're the exceptions, which is odd. And I would tell people, they would say, well, they would read my case. They say, oh my God, they did 11 years. They did this. Why would you ever want to go back there? I said, you have no idea how many friends I have and how friendly the people are. I said, I can't wait to get back there. I said, and it was the right call to come back here. I love it here. I love the people here. I'm so happy to have so many friends and people that I care for. And I mean, in the thousands. It's really just a great area. Nothing like.
This could be the new you. The new you. You came out of your chrysalis, and you're a beautiful butterfly, and this is the new you.
Well, unfortunately, it's the same me. It wasn't as pretty as a chrysalis where I was.
Are you prevented from being a politician again, or no? That could happen.
I hope so.
You hope you are prevented. You don't want the temptations to overwhelm you.
Well, Richard Nixon, of all people, said in his book Leaders, he says, being a leader is watching someone else do something badly as a leader and insisting on replacing them.
Oh.
And that's the way I looked at it prior to that, but it's not my role. I wasn't a good politician because I said what I thought, and I tried to do what I believed, and those things don't necessarily work in politics. They really don't.
I guess not. Well, I know you have to go back on air soon. I have two things I got to see before you go. Not see, but maybe one see and one ask. We still have some time, but go ahead. Moments. Yeah. Could you show me the ankle bracelet or no? Is that like allowed? I want to see one of these things. There it is, folks. The leg is coming up.
It doesn't look like much. I mean, that's it.
Oh, I
see it.
Yeah. And you can't. So if you came up my house now and said, "Let's cut this thing off," what happens? Then the alarm goes off or something?
Well, they know where you are, and they know if you're going according to the schedule you submitted the week before, and it's got to be a permissible place to be. And they monitor closely. I get called 3 times a day.
Yeah.
as late as 1 a.m, and they just make sure you're here. I think they realize I'm not trying to. I mean, because think of it, if I went somewhere, all of a sudden I think I'm going to be, smart enough to go drink in a bar or something. I'd be in handcuffs in an hour.
No, but being a meteorologist, what if the unfortunate circumstance, because this has happened to cows in Nebraska, if there's a vortex over you, a severe rotating thunderstorm, and it produces a tornado, if you get sucked up in that tornado, you can be thrown miles away, and then you're thrown out of your jurisdiction, right?
I don't think that I would be permitted an act of God.
Okay, that one. And the other thing I wanted to ask you is, now that you have my number and I have yours, are the feds going to be watching me? They're going to be saying, why are you communicating?
I hope not. I'm not doing anything, Joe. I may be aggravating them with what I say, but I'm not committing any crime, so I don't think you are either.
They're going to look
at it this way, Joe. Of all the thousands of people I know, I'm myself and AJ were the only ones that went to prison. So,
okay. So I'm okay in your contact.
I think you're okay.
Okay,
yes.
The contacts are good. Excellent.
They'll say, "Oh, that's that guy we watched in prison."
Do I have any fans in prison or no?
You did. Sure, you did.
Oh, that's good. Shout out to all your prisoner buddies if they're going to listen to this later on.
Yeah, hopefully they'll see it. If it's on NEP, they will watch NEP and the other stations. So
yeah, this can be on
at Schuylkill, and at Allenwood.
Yep, it's going to be on our YouTube channel, and it's going to be podcast on all podcast platforms, so everyone gets. They
won't get to see it then. There's no access to that.
Oh no, okay. Well, when they're out. Well, this was great. I hope you had a great time.
Always, Joe. It's always a pleasure to be with you, my friend. It really is.
Yeah, because people, they said on the air, you sometimes say, "Let's hear the weather now from my buddy Joe Snedeker," and then they'd ask me, they'd be like, "Are you buddies with him?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, we hung out a couple times. We've done things together, right?"
Well, see, Joe, you are instantly knowable after watching you all these years, and
I think we hung out at a bar like 10 years ago, though. I remember hanging out with you in a bar 10 years ago.
A little more than 10, but yeah.
A little more than 10. Okay.
Yeah,
that's the extent of it.
I used to see because of the media thing and the radio thing. I'd see you here and there, and you're immediately likable. So, I always said, he's my buddy,
You can say that anytime. That's fine with me.
All right, Joe.
All right. Thanks for everything, Big Daddy.
Thank you, my friend. Anytime.
And if you ever
you can call in anytime. Now, if you get political all of a sudden,
that ain't happening.
Good for you. Good for you.
I don't like politics. I don't like Christmas, and I don't like Disney. They're my three things. All right.
All right. Good for you. Good for you.
Peace, my friend.
Peace out, Joe.
Curiosity. What are you so curious about? Everything, Mr. Curiosity.